The July 14th, 2020 meeting of the Wilmington Economic Development Committee. I will read this pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Members of the public who wish to watch and listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. WCTV, Channel 9, Comcast, Xfinity, Channel 37, Verizon Fios, and live stream WCTV.org. The meeting of the Wilmington Economic Development Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members or the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting while in progress may also do via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and entering the meeting ID 893-6675-7562. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. All callers using this feature will be placed into a queue in the order that they entered the prompt. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. Thank you very much. Even before we get into the agenda, I want to welcome Paul Tivnan to our ranks. Paul, thank you for being here. We'll make it more formal in just a few moments because you are on the agenda, but I wanted to say thank you for being here on time. And
thank you. Glad to be here, Mike.
Indeed. Thank you. So our first order of business is the approval of minutes of June 16th, 2020. I did distribute those minutes to you a couple of days ago. So I would invite someone to make a motion.
So
I don't know. I will accept that motion from Nancy. Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you very much. So I have a motion made and a second. Is there discussion on the minutes from the last meeting, which was the meeting date of, sorry, I'm looking for it. Meeting date of 6/16, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No discussion. I'll do this by roll call. All in favor? I will vote yes. Lil Maselli.
Yes.
Greg Bendel.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Carol's not here. Paul, you will probably abstain, I imagine, right?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Nancy?
Actually, I'm just looking at the minutes, and bullet number 1, when you did the approval of the minutes, that would be from 5/28 then.
Thank you for the edit. I'm noticing that too. That's why I got confused when we were looking at dates. So I will accept that change, and will also presume that everyone's yay vote so far accepts that change as well, unless someone speaks up. So Valerie.
Yes.
That is it. So the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Sorry, I got a lot of paper going on here. The agenda number 2 here is Dan Gibbons, who had been with us over the course of the last year. After our last meeting, had sent me an email advising me that for personal reasons, scheduling and time constraints and otherwise, he didn't feel that he could dedicate the appropriate level of time to our efforts and wanted to bow out from the committee, at least for now. I was very grateful to him for the time that he spent. I'm sure we all share that observation. His contributions were always welcome and hopefully will continue to be if he has any thoughts or input. And I encouraged him to continue to share his thoughts, even if it's outside of the context of this meeting. So thank you to Mr. Gibbons, of course. That being said, Mr. Gibbons was an appointee of Selectman Kevin Kyra. And so in replacing him on our committee, Kevin had great wisdom and saw fit to appoint Paul Tivnan. And Mr. Tivenin was presented to the rest of the Board of Selectmen last evening, to which I'm glad to say the wisdom of the Board of Selectmen saw fit to unanimously approve Paul to our ranks. So Paul, welcome. We're awfully glad to have you. I won't go through formal introductions. You probably know a few of the folks in the room here, but we're certainly looking forward to your contributions virtually as well as live when we're, God willing, able to do so again in the near future.
Mike, thanks very much. I look forward to working with everyone, and I hope I can add some value. So certainly give my best.
Confident you will. I will say that Paul already is hitting the ground running. He was appointed last night, and today already went through the exercise of getting sworn in by the town clerk. So he's a full voting member of our committee already this evening. I wasn't sure that we would get that to happen today, so we were going to have Paul. Certainly glad to have him here tonight, but we weren't sure we would have him as a voting member, and he is. So that's awesome, and thank you for that, Paul. Because
no, Linda was great, so that went smoothly.
It's awesome. That's good stuff. So there we go. That was 3. I just jumped right over an agenda item. I want to share with you. Yeah. All right. So after our meeting last month, we talked a little bit about approaching the Board of Selectmen to ask for them to empower Jeff, the town manager, to authorize use of some town properties for outdoor business uses. And so at the Board of Selectmen meeting, I don't know, I forget the dates, forgive me, but at a Board of Selectmen meeting that was held, I guess 2 weeks ago, they did take that up as an agenda item, and I called in at that time when it was on the agenda just to sort of explain that request a little bit more. It was really just kind of a written request. And so, the Board of Selectmen made their presentation, and it was voted unanimously to approve that request. I think, Jeff, I'm sorry, I probably should have prepared you for the question, but did we have any of the businesses in town? I was aware that maybe one had asked for the opportunity or for the ability to meet outside.
Yes, so Laura Osgood, who is the owner of Wilmington Dance Company, I believe it is, Wilmington Dance Academy, had expressed interest in having rehearsals outside and possibly a recital. So one of the things that I needed to do as a follow-up from the Selectmen's meeting was consult with town council about just the whole issue of liability and putting together a license document, which would essentially allow private for-profit enterprises, or I suppose even non-profit, but specifically for-profit enterprises to use the property. So that was put together along with an application that was all sent off to, and in the meantime, I had a couple of email exchanges, and I believe maybe a phone conversation with Laura. She explained that what she was looking for, and so the information went off to her the end of last week. I checked in with her via email today just to see if she had any questions. Haven't heard back from her, but it is in process. That's the only one that I've received to this point.
Okay, well, thank you. I really didn't know to what degree there was a quote unquote demand, but for that level of service, I'm glad someone availed themselves of the access. So thank you for acting on that, and thank you to the Board of Selectmen for also acting on it. One other thing that we talked about at our last meeting was Suzanne, I'm pointing at Suzanne like she knows, had put together a list of resources that were available at the state's mass.gov, as well as other locations, to try to put it all in one location so that businesses who may be looking for resources or information or advice or whatever, rather than doing Google searching or surfing around the internet to try to get the information that they need, at least maybe some of those sources could be collected into one location. Suzanne had done a lot of the front end legwork. I made it look a little pretty, and we created a document that we agreed as a committee to place on the Economic Development Committee's website. I don't know, John, if you have that handy, you could probably pop it up. If any businesses happen to be watching this either live or in a recording, this is a document that is linked right underneath. There it is. Thank you very much, John. Go back. I'm sorry, to the website. Yeah, so right there underneath where it says Economic Development Committee, COVID-19 resources and guidance for businesses. So that link is the document that John had on the page just a moment ago. We won't go through each of the resources themselves, but I just want folks to know whether they be residents, they can share this information with their colleagues or neighbors who maybe run businesses or work in businesses in the community, or any business members of our community that might be listening to this broadcast should be aware that this set of resources is here. There's so much information. Thank you, John. There's so much information out there, and I think the intent of our discussion at our last meeting and the intent really ongoing is for us to be a resource, a place for a lot of information to sort of channel into, and then for us to sort of make that available to folks rather than having folks out there in the Wild West on their own. That being said, I was listening to the Board of Selectmen meeting last evening. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to do so. And Shelley Newhouse, our Director of Health for the town, had indicated that she is getting a lot of phone calls from businesses in town with a myriad of questions about what they ought to be doing, where they are in the phased opening approach, what requirements there are of them in order to meet all, to be able to open under their particular phase. And, you know, that was, I believe Jeff had mentioned in one of our previous meetings that Shelley would really be the point person for businesses as they try to navigate how to open themselves up, which is awesome. And she's a tremendous resource. I wasn't sure, and you know, I don't have an action item on the agenda specific to this, but my hope and my desire was that we could support her efforts with communication. And maybe that's just providing sort of like the link we have on our webpage, but also maybe doing some type of outbound broadcast, whether that be a social media campaign or like I had done a press release after we took our vote at our last Economic Development Committee meeting. I had done a press release out to the Apple and some of the other media outlets to let them know of the vote that was taken at the Board of Selectmen to allow for some outdoor business uses at town properties. So that's the kind of, you know, I don't want to say broadcast, but the sharing of information that through our committee, if we cull some information together, we can get it out into the marketplace for people to consume. Maybe that's one way that we can be beneficial. And I guess part of what we wanted to talk about tonight was how else can we be beneficial? So you know, that's we're still on bullet number 4, which is to discuss that press release and any other subsequent actions that took place after our last meeting. I've dominated the conversation. I certainly want to open up to any conversation on that bullet point before we continue talking about the phased approach. So I'll shut up for a second, and you know, if you want to talk, start talking, and we'll try to figure out who wants to speak.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say something? So a lot of the information that we put out there from the last meeting that went up on the website, so a lot of that, I wouldn't say it's out of date, but it's constantly changing. And so I think one of the challenges is to try to keep up with those changes. I mean, I'd be willing to try to keep up with them, you know, and maybe if there was a process set up where, or if anybody wanted to try to keep up with them and send that information, you know, to IT or through you first, and then you could send it to IT, you know, some type of a process, so as information becomes available, we can share it. And then maybe do some type of a press release saying that, you know, that on the website, it's constantly being updated. Because some of that information is, we're already in what, phase 3 now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
As of, I think.
We don't have anything up there about phase 3.
So just not to recreate the wheel, this is what I do for a job with the chamber, but I do it for just the chamber members. So I think I mentioned the last time, you know, all of the stuff that, all of those resources and all that have been on the chamber website. And then this is the communications that I'm constantly sending out to our chamber members. So, I don't know, I think, I've talked to Mike a little bit on the side about this, but I mean, instead of people just doing the same research, I mean, I'm sending it to my members usually every week. So I don't know if you want to copy and paste it or, you want to do it. And then I know Tewksbury themselves, they take some of that, but they send it out directly from the town. They send it out in their town emails from the town of Tewksbury. So they're really keeping up on, sending out the communications, ongoing directly.
Nancy, may I ask, how does Tewksbury Economic Development, whoever is sending out those messages, how do they populate and keep track of the email addresses? How did they get that? I know you have them from the Chamber of Commerce members, but how does the town have a database of business email addresses?
Yeah, I think Wilmington has one as well, if I'm not wrong. If you sent out just a blanket email to residents and from the town, is that correct, Jeff?
Well, we have, depending upon the department, the rec, for example, has addresses of people who are interested in various rec programs. Elderly Services has addresses for individuals that, communicate or interested in elderly services, libraries. So they all have their own database, so to speak. And then we have the reverse 911, the Everbridge system. But those aren't necessarily a database strictly for businesses.
So I believe it's people that have signed up to receive, the town newsletter or maybe a specific newsletter. That's the database that they're working off of.
Is that the right? I'm not opposed to the idea, Nancy. I just, how do we get information out into the hands of the people that should have the information, I guess is the question, right? Is it post it on the website and then send out do a social media campaign or an advertising marketing campaign that the information lives in a certain place? Or do we create the information and send it as an email? The latter part is the one that I'm I guess a little concerned about, because we may have email addresses for residents, but there are business owners and folks that run businesses who are not residents, but we do want to, as an economic development committee, we want to be able to share information with non-resident business owners, if that makes sense. So I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, I would suggest creating a database of email addresses for businesses, all businesses in town.
You have such, or you have been creating one?
Well, I would suggest that for all businesses. I have that for chamber members, obviously. Right. I have a whole list of prospects that have email addresses, but that's not, the entire business community. And I'm thinking if that's something, these type of communications are going to go out from the Economic Development Committee and blast emails, then let's start building that database.
Can I ask a question then? Because do we have, what's the database look like to get all businesses in the town? Like, do we have that?
I'm not aware that we have a database strictly for businesses. Valerie, can you speak to that?
I'm also not aware of a database that we have like that.
Well, we have.
I guess one of the things to perhaps ask, and I can certainly ask Rich Montori, but who it is over there that has developed that. As I understand it, they have an economic development person, I guess, in addition to their planner. I don't know particularly how they're set up over there, but if they have someone that generated that information, perhaps as the point person at the chamber, you can share the information you have, and then perhaps work with us to develop the database for those that are not members.
Yeah, I can find out that information from the town of Tewksbury if you would like, Jeff. But in terms of the database for the businesses itself, I mean, there is a master list that, I've worked with the clerk's office, they keep track of all the, business certificates. And so she does have some sort of database. And then, I've added businesses. So, but again, it's not every business in town. So it could just be, as easy as, trying to come up with that list with the email addresses. Because I don't think the list we have has email addresses, and then doing a social media campaign, and even putting a link on the town website, sign up for the business, economic development business newsletter or something like that. It's going to be something that's going to take time to create. But.
So this is John O'Neill, the IT director. Just to jump in here, for Everbridge and our reverse 911 system, we do have business listings that we're taking from white pages and yellow pages. Those do not include email addresses. They do have phone numbers.
To start, but our
Mike, this is Paul. Would the town have a list based on property taxes? I mean, we have businesses paying a different rate, right? I mean, would we have a breakdown of businesses in that regard? We may not have the email for each of them, but I would think we would have at least to start a list of all the businesses and then maybe send a letter out with a form to have them respond back. Possibility.
What about, sorry.
We
what
certainly
about,
do have, I'm sorry, we certainly do have a list of businesses in town through the assessor's office, and would have, mailing addresses because of sending tax bills and so on.
I want to comment on that, and then Lil, we'll go down to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The observation I have on that only is that I suspect a lot of the tax bills are going to landlords and not to the business operators. So there's a number of businesses that run inside of somebody else's property.
That's true, yeah.
We really want to get to the business, not to the property owner. Sometimes it's the same, but not always.
Right.
So just an observation. It's not a deal breaker. It's just something to be considered.
Well, there might be a list of personal property tax, right? So the business personal property tax would be for the business and not for the property owner.
There's got to be lists everywhere.
Right.
Yes, I mean that not all businesses though have personal property taxes. So yeah, that is a subset, but there is a list.
Lil, did you have a contribution?
Yeah, no, and I don't know how this works in Wilmington, but when people apply for, say, like dumpster permits and things like that, I don't know, is it an online service? I know in Reading we do it. It's all online now. And it's through emails. So we automatically get, like through this whole COVID situation, we get emails if, there's a red flag of something or whatever going on. And we never personally signed up for anything. So I'm assuming they just kind of got it from when we've gone for our permits, like our, what do we have? Dumpster permits and what is it? But yeah, all of our retail permits, all things like that. So I was just wondering if Wilmington does that, if that's something that maybe we can look into.
That is, so that's something that we certainly, in terms of online permitting, have discussed. It's not in place right now, though.
Okay.
So just in the interest of moving this forward, Suzanne, I welcome, if you want to, if you look at our existing document that we have as whatever, the information and resources for COVID-19 business recovery, that document that's linked on our webpage. If you look at it and if you feel like there are items there that must be updated, they're generally links to locations on the state's website or even the U.S. Treasury that are non-date specific. It's sort of generalized, and the websites themselves that it links to, they're being updated. But if there are links that you feel like should either be removed or updated with a different link, I would welcome, if you want to send that information to me, whatever you feel like is important information to share, send it to me and I'll just update. I have the master document. I'll update the document. And once I create the master document, I send it off to John and he populates it. He replaces it online. So if there are ways, if there are things that you see, if everyone else is comfortable with Suzanne sort of judging what should or shouldn't be a part of that document, we'll empower you, Suzanne, to do that, and I'll gladly update the document. Is that a reasonable approach?
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Nancy, with regards to a database, a centralized, town database, if the beginnings of that are perhaps the foundation that the Chamber of Commerce has, I certainly don't want to diminish the value and the import of the hard work that the Chamber of Commerce does to create the Chamber's database, but it is unique and specific to those members. They make up a percentage of the overall business community, and we in this committee are interested in communicating with the entire business community. So I'm not sure where it seems like a fuzzy line between us asking the Chamber of Commerce, "Hey, can we have your database?" But if we are using it in a way that's complementary and not competitive to the efforts of the Chamber, I feel like maybe it's a reasonable request. I'm not sure how you feel about it, or if you want to run it by your board, of which, by the way, in full disclosure, I'm a member of. So I don't have a problem with it personally. I don't know if the rest of the board here has any concerns about how that would be perceived. To me, again, I think if we're all marching in the same direction, it's good for the overall business community. We just have to be careful not to steal away the value and the merit that the Chamber of Commerce as an enterprise has to its membership. Thoughts?
No, I guess that's the tricky part. It's, we want to be able to, people pay dues to be part of the chamber. So they have been handheld, because they pay the chamber dues. They've kind of been handheld through this whole COVID thing.
Right.
And they have seen a value in that, and that's why they pay their dues. So it is kind of tricky, but we're here for the whole community, though, I guess.
Again, I don't think we would look to replace the incredibly valuable information that you have been making available to your members. And, in and above what you do in terms of informing the chamber members, you're also involved in creating events and sponsorship opportunities and all the other, tangible and intangible benefits that chamber membership has. That's not at all what this enterprise here at the Economic Development Committee is involved in. We're not about sponsorships and generating revenue specifically. So I think there are some specific ways that we are very different. In this particular case, where we're trying to communicate with a similar audience, that's where we have a little fuzzy line. And the reason I brought it up again was I was going to see if you were willing or able to do what we started talking about, perhaps talk to Mr. Montori or is it Steve Sadgwick in Tewksbury, or go through Mark or someone there to talk about what mechanism they have in place for capturing and maintaining a centralized database in Tewksbury. If they have a system that seems to be working for them, maybe we can sort of duplicate their efforts a little bit here in Wilmington. So I don't know if you're receptive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that.
That'd be come see what you come up with, and then we can act on it. I think that's a long play. That the databases take time to fill out. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to happen overnight, but I think it's a good effort to start.
Good.
Any disagreement with that from anyone? Awesome. So we're in phase 3. I'm on. Before I move on to bullet 5, any more discussion on bullet 4? I see none. Phase 3. I haven't studied it too well, but it's. John, do you have the website up handy? Oh, yeah, okay. Yep. So the state, the mass.gov. It's not specific to the phasing, but what I wanted to draw the attention to was some of the resources. It was my understanding was that a lot of what businesses are calling into town hall asking for are, how do I make a plan? How do I create a plan that I need to present to the town hall to demonstrate that we're ready to open under the phased approach? And these templates and a lot of these documents are right on the state's website. So, and I think that's an answer that Shelley has been giving to businesses when they call in, and it's not offered as a criticism by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see, you are I'm trying to see what link it is. If you go down on the page, I think, John, keep on going just a little bit more. Right there. Yeah. So those blue boxes there, and you don't have to click on them specifically, but those blue boxes are really the resources for businesses to access templates. It defines what those workplace and safety standards are. There's a poster that they can print directly from here. So there's no need for businesses to have to go to a graphic design firm or a third party to have something prepared. And the template, the control plan template, which is the middle top row, really guides a business through what they need to do in order to adhere with or comply with the reopening requirements. So they can come here first, gather the information or complete the information that they need, and then present that information to, in this case, here in Wilmington, Shelley Newhouse at Town Hall. So that can expedite the process a little bit rather than sort of, okay, where do I start? And then Shelley brings them here. I just wanted to suggest to businesses that maybe are listening or would get wind of this meeting after the fact that this is really the place for them to go and get a lot of that really valuable information. Again, I don't want to duplicate efforts here. The state has done a good job in providing these resources. It's really just our mission, I think, and certainly has been my mission to try to communicate that message out. So phase 3, indoor and outdoor events. I don't know if anyone has the discussion or is more aware of what's happening in phase 3. I'd open it up to all of you. I guess the under bullet on 5 that I've created here was, how can the town possibly assist Wilmington businesses in moving forward through these phases? Kind of what I was already just talking about. How can we be a communication outlet or as I said in our, sorry, I'm going to look at it here. The proactive arm, right? How can we be the proactive arm of the town of Wilmington to communicate some of these resources out to the business community? We talked about a database, but I tried to do the press release a couple of weeks ago, and we can continue to try to do that to get the press to recognize some of these efforts that we're making and some of the efforts that the state has made and that the town has made. But in the absence of the business community knowing about those efforts, it's unknown. So our effort really is just to make that information known. Under section 5, if anyone wants to talk about the phase, what is phase 3, I welcome that discussion because I'm not as schooled in it as I should be. And if anyone wants to talk about other strategies we can take to, as a committee, to ease the process at Town Hall and make it beneficial to the business community, I welcome that discussion. I don't know, we can do that discussion for 10 or so minutes, and then I want to get to discussing some goal setting for the rest of the year. So I'll open up the conversation to anybody that wants to either raise a hand or start talking. Okay.
I think it's just anything business related. Like I just recently said something out about the tax-free holiday that's coming up and what weekend that is. I just sent something out about the bags and the recession of that order that for the grocery stores or bags in any place. So anything business related, hopefully when we have this database, it's those things that are we're funneling out to everyone. And maybe it's just on social media right now, or just on the Economic Development Committee website, I guess, in those resources maybe.
I have a question about the website. Have we been getting any kind of hits? Can IT tell us that? Like, are we getting any traffic at all?
I can't tell you this very instant, but I can get something to the chair probably a little later this week.
That would be good, because that would be at least, say, if we're not getting that much traffic, and then we start to make efforts. If we do get some traffic, we can actually measure what's successful and what's not successful. If we want to start bringing people to the website, that's
definitely something I could work on.
Thank you, John. Hey, Suzanne, are you in marketing? That's a great idea. That's a good idea. I'm looking at phase 3 here. movie theaters and outdoor performance venues, museums, cultural and historical sites, fitness centers and health clubs. All of these have some restrictions with obviously within them. Certain indoor recreational activities with low potential for contact. Professional sports teams under the authority of league-wide rules may hold games without spectators. And then there's some other listings here and a bunch of guidance. Again, this is all on the state's website, but when we talk about phases, unless folks are watching the governor's press releases and watching all this stuff like probably us, I tend to watch it. I'm fascinated with it, and because of our role here, I feel like I should have some acceptance or some knowledge of it. But the regular layperson out there probably doesn't know what's happening with these phases, and so I just thought it was worthwhile to at least acknowledge that we are in this phase 3. I think phase 4, by the way, is these phases seem to be going in 3-week increments, and that was as was defined by the governor when he first started this, a phased approach. But phase 4 was not expected to be 3 weeks after phase 3. In fact, I'm not even sure there's a date of anticipated date for phase 4. I don't know if Jeff or Valerie or anybody else has any updated information on that, but I think phase 4 is, in some cases, vaccine is way down the line. I'm not sure if anyone has any other observations or has heard different about that.
Phase 3 will definitely be a long phase, and we don't even know. There'll be a step 2 in phase 3, which that date hasn't been announced either. Right. But what will happen is there will only be 2 steps in phase 3, but what will happen is they'll keep going back again, depending on health data, they'll keep going back and maybe expanding some of those, or being a little bit more lenient in some of the protocols in each industry. But phase 4 is not even talked about right now.
And Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the benefits to the businesses in phase 3, step 1, is that the office capacity, I think, has been increased. So that's a change for folks, and I think that's something that that's certainly interested in.
And the big thing is, gyms are open, and it's great that you saw a few weeks ago that the hair salons, massage, and all those places open, but you also have to realize that these people are still struggling very badly. The restaurants, the hair salons, the barbers. I mean, barbers, they're calling me, they're saying, 25% of their clientele, and, really struggling very much so. And gyms, again, I was just at RMA a little while ago, and, he's, again, maybe a quarter in, has lost about, maybe 50% of his membership haven't come back yet. Mm. So they may, we have to not think of them as, they're back in business. Right. We're going to see how hard this has hit them in the coming months.
And I think,
go ahead, Lou.
So say, I think that even though the state is in phase 3, I think it's an individual thing. Obviously, the smaller businesses are gonna, obviously want to jump right in. But I know some of the bigger businesses, for example, at Analog, we're still in our phase 1. We have not opened it up to have any more people. We've had our fab people on in the fabs right through. And then we went on our phase 1 when the government did, and which opened it up to more the rest of the essential people that need to be in labs and stuff. We're not planning on going into our next phase until September. And we're not going to open our gym till a new year. So I wonder how many other businesses in town, obviously like kind of the bigger ones, are kind of doing the same. And, kind of, obviously that's an impact too, because then you don't have people in these office buildings. They're not going to these smaller businesses. So something to take into consideration there too.
Nancy, any indication how the outdoor dining's going? I mean, I think, you drive by, see a lot of folks. I think residents are enjoying it. I think
that's going well.
Yeah, I think the town did a great job in getting on that. And, you see the tents over at Rocco's, at Red Heat, at Tremezzo's. I think it looks good. And I think people are definitely using its services. So it's helping them for sure.
Good.
Yeah, and I want to thank the town for being real fast and receptive to that too. I think that was it was early work. As soon as they were able, and within days, it seemed tents were going up, and I think that was exciting and responsive. So that was good news. Well, we won't belabor the point. By the way, Carol, didn't acknowledge your
Sorry about
arrival.
that. Well, I'm sorry, I had it done at 7 and I only came on when I did because I like to get on early to test things. So I apologize. If there's any change to the meeting minutes, just let me know and I'll clean them up.
Just one date, but yeah, I'll get to you after. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Yeah, so we don't have to belabor the point of the phases. The phases are well defined on the state's website, but I just wanted to acknowledge that what kind of businesses were listed in those phases, many of which we don't really have represented in our community, except for the gyms and fitness centers and health clubs and stuff, which are very well represented in town. But to your point, Nancy, you know, in as much as they can have their members or clients come indoors, they can't have the same density, certainly, that they were designed to have. And that might speak to an opportunity for them to supplement their current operations with some outdoor classes or sessions or whatever, and are pursuant to, you know, the town manager's approval and stuff. So, you know, that's hopefully a message that gets out there, and we'll try to maybe find a way to get that message repeated to that community again, to let them know that that is another avenue they can take in addition to their ability to open up at a limited approach now into phase 3.
Mike, did I know late, but did anybody, you know, our last meeting we had talked about kind of state funding for certain things to do with seating and outdoor venues and stuff like that. Did anybody, maybe it's a better question for Jeff, did anybody come forward, any of the businesses, or did the town, or did we in any way pursue any of that kind of free money that was out there?
So I did forward the information to Public Works, and Valerie, I think if I recall, you looked at it as well. It sounded like the program was really geared more towards communities that have more defined downtown areas or more urban areas. You know, there was discussion about the prospect of shutting down certain streets and creating spaces for businesses to have their operations outside. And it was I think the expectation was that these were quick turnaround type of things. And I, you know, we don't really have that kind of a situation in Wilmington in terms of a defined downtown area per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I liken it to what, I don't know if any of you saw, I haven't been, I want to, in the North End on Hanover. Is it Hanover?
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, the parking areas where they're no longer parking areas, and they put those New Jersey barriers in kind of where at the end of a car would be, and you sit out in a parking space. But I think the cost incurred by the city to put those New Jersey barriers in on Hanover Street would be the kind of project I think that you're talking about, Jeff, right?
Yes.
Which doesn't seem to necessarily fit. I can't think of where that kind of a thing, I don't mean to say specifically Jersey barriers on a roadway, but that kind of a project, yeah, I couldn't think of anything either. But I appreciate you, Jeff, sending it off to the appropriate folks to at least be aware, if not take action on it. Safe to move on to goal setting for 2000. Well, no, not for 2000, for the next 12-month period. Is that a reasonable, can we move on to 6?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to start because I like to talk. Bob Oliveri, a fellow member of ours, he regrets that he couldn't be here today. He's engaging in some of his volunteer work and business activity. But he had taken upon himself after our last meeting to investigate whether or not there would be some advertising access, whether it be inexpensive or something that could be funded through third parties or whatever. And so the billboard that is on it's Route 38/129 across from the one billboard we have in town.
It's Woburn, right? The one heading out of Woburn?
Yeah.
Coming into Wilmington.
Isn't it by Jimmy's gas station there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's across? The Gold Redemption Place is across the street, or I don't even know what's across the street.
I think it's just up the street, maybe 50 yards from the gas station. It is across from the woods there.
The one just past Heavenly Donuts?
Yes, thank you, Lil. Yeah.
I'm thinking of the one in Woburn. The one on the left.
That's the one I was thinking of too.
Oh, no, I was thinking,
On the
sorry, so
borderline.
we're in different places. We're specifically talking about the one as you're coming into towards the center of Wilmington,
Yep.
on the left side after you've passed Heavenly Donuts.
Okay.
It's a relatively small billboard as far as billboards go.
Okay, I know what you mean, yeah.
Anyway, Bob had made an inquiry as to what it would cost to get an advertisement. The point of which would be to make folks aware that the Economic Development Committee exists, to make them aware of some of the resources that we have on the website, et cetera. And so we would come up with the messaging kind of later, but just as another avenue for conveying information. And it was like $2,000 a month. So that's out. But then he thought about
tied to a billboard in Barica too, so you have to take the Barica one too. The guy who owns it, you have to go to Boston Road as well, so it's a little.
Oh, is it a twofer?
Oh, no kidding.
I didn't know that.
And you have to do a 2-year deal. 2-year deal for
Oh, wow.
$2,000 each year.
Okay, then.
I have a full disclosure. I have a friend with a plumbing company who's done it. So
You know what? It's a free market economy, man. You can do whatever you want. So good for him, and that's fine. I thought it was a worthwhile exercise. It
was a good idea.
Oh,
But
what about the sign at Rotary Park? I mean, could we use a portion of that to put the link or put at least get some information out there when it's available, especially now that school's not in session.
Yes, the sign that we had the reference to town meeting and periodically, I think we can do that on a periodic basis. I don't know that there's any, I don't recall offhand what's on the sign right now. I think the most recent notice was town meeting, so that's certainly available.
I guess the question would be, what's the message, right? We can't put the entire URL. It's slightly long. So is it, economic development, visit town website? What's the info?
Yeah, we'd have
Good
to.
idea.
It would have to be precise, obviously, because you don't have a lot of real estate there. I agree. But I mean, that gets so much traffic. It's a main.
I think one of the other options you may want to consider, and I think maybe we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, is town topics. That goes out to everybody, and it's a quarterly newsletter that goes out. If the group wanted to put together some kind of a brief piece that talked about your mission, perhaps, or provided some contact information, the website and so on, I think that would be one opportunity.
We missed your last one, Jeff. It's funny. When I got it in my tax bill after I screamed and yelled at you, I realized that I had missed. Sorry, just kidding. I realized that we had missed our window for the last town topics.
We should definitely do that. Yes. I look forward to reading that personally when it comes. Right. I look at that before I look at my tax bill. I do.
Down 16 cents on the rate this year, right, Jeff?
That's right.
Yeah.
Never miss an opportunity, Greg. Attaboy. What's the?
I think that's a great newsletter. I mean, just
I do too. I think it's fantastic.
I always look at it as well.
Me too.
Jeff, when would you need that submitted by in order to be in for the next one?
So the next one would go out. Would actually go out in advance of October 1st. So we would be looking to receive the information by mid-September, the 15th or thereabouts.
Okay. I will put a note to self for the 1st of September to get a draft together. And I think it's definitely we should leverage. That's free publicity and we shouldn't miss it.
Definitely.
Some creative things that I've heard some other towns doing is even around this whole reopening plan. I think it was Reading, their economic development person. They came up with this whole ribbon. So for all the businesses that are reopening, they're getting this like red ribbon that they display outside their business, and there's kind of a whole campaign around that, which I thought was cool.
Oh, fun.
I know, but that things like that can always be tied into economic development, whether it's just a note on it or again within a press release.
We need a subcommittee for the ribbon subcommittee.
No.
It's a neat idea. It's just it is. By the way, I just got a text from our fearless technology guru. Since May 1st, there have been 150 page views of the Economic
wow.
Development Committee page, which makes up slightly more than 10%. No, less. Oh, John, I don't know. You said 0.11%. So I'm sorry, of our total page views.
Less than
1%.
Less than 1%. Oh.
It's a
What was the
tiny
date on that, Mike? Since when?
since May 1st. So I
Mike, I would say that, you know, whatever blurb, whatever information we come up with for town topics, we should probably look to take advantage of Town Crier, the Apple, and drive traffic to the website, because that's the place where you're going to have the most real estate and be able to put the most information. And then encourage also businesses who may feel like, you know, I have the information, but I need the town's help to let people know I'm open, or you know, what can the town do for me, kind of thing, to help people understand that my business is open, it's safe, and so forth. And I don't personally have a good handle on who needs that kind of help, but we want to solicit that information, I would imagine, to see what aid we could give them, making sure that, you know, gyms are tough. Gym's going to be a tough thing because it's inside. You know, you're sweating, you're working out. It's a tougher environment. But other types of businesses may need some publicity to help people realize, hey, you know, I'm back open. That type of thing. But I do think we should take advantage of the crier and the stuff that's existing now that people tend to read in general, you know.
Mike, I agree with Paul's comments there, but I would like to add that one of the goals I'd like to see for the committee is perhaps we just literally pick a business per month and we highlight them and we bring them on. You know, they can promote themselves, and anything we can do to help. If somebody's really struggling, maybe this is just another avenue.
Yeah.
Maybe people are tuning in and we can just, you know, give them a few minutes at the beginning of the meeting to promote, you know, and
That's a
talk
great
about
idea.
So just, you know, I'm just talking about, you know, maybe one a month, you know.
Greg, I would add to that. I think that's a great idea, and I think, you know, typically if something's going on in town, like I'm trying to think, people are very good about information tends to flow very quickly. Like when people are asking other residents to fill out that Liberty Mutual survey for the fireworks, you know, the winter thing. I mean, that went around like wildfire, and I think people are pretty good about getting the word out. So if someone comes to us and says, you know, I really need some help with my business, I think we can get the word out fairly quickly. Email, you know, personal email accounts, word of mouth, Twitter. There's a lot of avenues there if we know what's going on.
Have we decided on like about a Facebook or an Instagram or a Twitter? Where do we sit with that?
I think, and I'll ask maybe Jeff to chime in here. I think we opted away from it just because of open meeting. And forgive me, Jeff, you had indicated there had been some observations or some concerns about creating a social media presence on behalf of a government entity.
And I can totally understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have some reservations about doing that, at least at this point, until we.
Yes.
But Jeff, if I could interrupt you, that doesn't mean, Mike, that, you know, if you had a press release and you wanted to, you know, ask the town to put it out on its new town Facebook page, that they couldn't do that, right, Jeff? I mean, that
Yes.
would be reasonable.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I did a quick, I'm sorry, who's that?
Oh, I just said that's fair, sorry.
Oh.
This is John O'Neill, the IT director again. Yeah, if there's anything you want us to post on our town Facebook page or Twitter, we'd be happy to do that. Especially with social media, just to chime in with what Jeff mentioned, you know, we have to pay attention to public records and archiving anything we put out there.
I feel bad because I did a press release to the press, and I didn't send it to Jeff or John. I you know, for that specific intent. It was just an omission. I didn't target it that way. Just what happened. And I feel bad about that. So we're living and learning live as we go. Making a note. I wanted to finish my thought, if I could, not but Bob Oliveri had suggested, in lieu of doing an advertising campaign and spending money that we don't have, he thought we could avail ourselves of the free stuff, which would be using WCTV, creating a commercial, I'm reading his notes now, creating a commercial on our local TV station and interviews with each member. So what he is suggesting is we go to WCTV and maybe a couple of us from the Economic Development Committee, perhaps with one of the members from WCTV, and we would go and just sort of do an interview show kind of thing and just talk about the efforts of this committee and what's happening in government, yada, that kind of stuff. For broadcast, and then creating like a YouTube link of that broadcast that we put on our website, on the town's website, etc. So creating content that we can do for free at WCTV. It just really becomes a time thing. But the best part of that is that he said he would spearhead the effort. So, and the other bullet that he had was adding a message into the newsletter or town topics. So we already covered that. It was an idea that he had too. So I'm glad to hear there seems to be some unanimity about the merits of that idea. But how do you guys feel about, working with WCTV and creating some video content?
I think that's a great idea.
His initial idea seems to be us as opposed to some of the businesses. And I think it's maybe just to talk about our ideas for what we have, what our vision for the Economic Development Committee is. I can foresee it evolving into bringing in businesses and talking about their experiences with economic development, et cetera. But I will gladly communicate with Bob after this meeting and let him know that, I don't know that it requires a formal vote. It seems like unless someone speaks up, and please do, if there's opposition to this idea, we can talk about some other avenue. But it seems like it's well received by everyone that's listening. So if I empower him, I'll ask him to get the ball started, and I suspect he'd be reaching out to individuals to start scheduling maybe some sessions. Is that reasonable?
Mike, I think that's not a bad idea, but I can only speak for myself. I think my face is probably on WCTV too much. So I would be inclined to see if it would substitute with a business who wants to promote the phased reopening offerings that they have. Maybe there's something they're trying to highlight. Whether it's an outdoor dining option, if it's a new setup at their gym, whatever their salon is doing. I would rather, give a minute or two to them and put out a quick clip and let them promote themselves. I don't know if they'll be interested, but at least we could try to bridge that gap and set them up with WCTV.
I'm not opposed to the idea, Greg, and I think there's certainly an opportunity to do that. I'm questioning, or I'm challenged by how we select which business. How do we cherry pick the business that gets to be the one? So there might be someone that really needs the help today, but didn't know about it. So I don't know. I'm sorry.
I've been contacted by WCTV. Bob, I think it's Bob, right? No, Bob.
Ryan?
No. He does a show, Making It in Wilmington.
Is that Bob Boyce?
Bob Boyce, thank you.
Yeah.
That he wants to restart doing again, and so they've asked. He was wanted some businesses to go to. So that's an opportunity of a show that's kind of already been done for businesses and for businesses to spotlight themselves on. So I don't know if if you were talking more about having this group do. And the only thing I would say to that would be just making sure that, because sometimes I'm unclear, to be honest with you, of what our goals and mission are going to be, for the next year. So I would just want to make sure that we're 100% clear of what we're going to be doing before we go on WCTV.
Well, 100% is a very lofty goal. I think we're all trying to figure that out. At best, on any given day, I'm at 60, 70%. And I have to keep going back to the mission statement to remind myself what we're trying to achieve here. And it seemed like we were making great progress until COVID hit. I was so excited about this being the proactive arm.
Mr. Chair, it sounds like one of the underlying themes that the committee is focused on is just communicating information that is going to be helpful to the businesses in the current circumstance, obviously COVID, but other information. And I guess one of the questions, and maybe I would pose it to Nancy, from your experience on the chamber are, what are the sources that businesses typically go to when they're, trying to get information? Is it, are they largely social media driven? Do they pay more attention to, the town crier, or where are they getting their information when they're looking to get local information?
Well, I do it through constant contact, so email marketing, and then I seem to have more luck just through regular email, but and then social media, and my Facebook page is really, I get a lot of information out to people there. Those are the three avenues that I use. But I still, and I'm always going to say this, I still think that there should be a business tab on the town website that specifically says business that people can go to, and whether the economic development was a subset, within there. But I think it's, residential and business, like many other towns have, and I'll always keep pushing for that.
I think another thing that maybe is important for us to do right now, and everything we've been talking about is kind of highlighting that, is maybe to kind of be that conduit to let people, just the general population of Wilmington, know what's going on with the businesses right now, because these are unusual times. And that's why I think I like the idea, like the Rotary Park thing is one thing, because I know a lot of people who don't actually watch WCV TV, or they don't, read the town crier. Hopefully you touch upon each person through something, but I think some sort of a public out in the roadway type thing is important too, even if it just directs them to one of the social media or some other sort of thing. But I think we're missing a whole lot of people by staying on to some of the things that we've talked about. I think it really is I love it. I wish the billboard idea was realistic, because that I think would be perfect. But so again, to struggling a little bit, as we all are, on the clarity of what are we doing right now with the COVID whole thing going on, and not being able to do what our original objective was, to kind of bring more businesses in and so forth. We've kind of taken a turn. And I guess, so the question we're trying to answer now is like, what's the best vehicle to do that? And, I think there's a lot of good ideas. I think another thing that we're struggling with, at least I'm struggling with execution. Mm-hmm. We come up with great ideas, but how do we execute? We're sitting here in our homes or offices, wherever we happen to be, talking about all of these fabulous ideas, but, our next meeting will be next month. And what do we execute in that time frame? I think we need to get down to brass tacks a little bit more, even if it's just one or two things that we're going to do. That we can kind of go back to the next meeting a month from now and say we accomplished something.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Carol. And it does take work to even put together a database, an email address. But then once you have that, then right, constant communication that needs to go out to keep it all going, and to get to make the committee reputable, and for more people to find out about it, and more people to sign up to get the information from it, and that takes time. And
right.
That takes somebody doing it.
Yeah.
To Nancy's point, and to certainly Carol's point, I think just for me personally, just going back to the agenda item here, number 6, I think the top priority for the coming year needs to be the database. And it's certainly not going to happen overnight. It's going to be something that probably maybe takes a year. But with that business database, we can target specific individuals or groups of people. I was talking to Mike earlier today about, we had Mr. Quinn on last night. He's on a Board of Selectmen meeting. He's opening up another business in town, the Habit Burger over on Ballardvale Street. He's somebody I would love to hear his feedback of how was the process you just went through of opening your business? What was the challenges? What was the most challenging thing that you just went through? Because I think that could be good feedback. And I'd like to target those individuals specifically. I think we did last year a nice survey that went out to residents, and that's great feedback too, but became more of a wish list for folks. I'd like to hear from the other side, which is the business, and I think being able to target them, we need that database.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to mention, as as you guys are sort of researching and coming up with different avenues on communication, in my experience, you always want to have a home base, so to speak. And for us, I try to communicate this to the different departments. The home base for us should always be our website. So whether or not you're sending messages on, social media, you're sending out press releases, you always want to link the website, and that will sort of drive up, the page views we're not seeing now. So what you do choose, just please always keep that in mind. Whatever information you put out there, you also want to have on the website.
Good point. Yeah.
Can I just weigh in and give my 2 cents worth also? I mean, I think there's been some really good ideas, and I think it may be prudent to just take a few of those ideas tonight and try to make them action items. But I think one of the big things we have to do is figure out how we're going to do outreach. I mean, with a committee or a body like this, it's always difficult to do public outreach, but it becomes a main component when you're trying to make a sale, if you will, or to sell yourself to the community or to the business community. And I think what we're struggling with right now is that we're having a hard time figuring how to get that message out and get that information out. So maybe what we need to do is really think about coming into the next meeting with a plan and ideas of how to actually implement an outreach. You have to actually sit down and really think about it. And being on a nonprofit, I know the best way to do that is to sit down and develop an outreach plan. And so maybe there's maybe 4 or 5 action items that we can identify to do what we have to do. That's what I would suggest. Because no matter what we do, if we're not reaching people, it's almost like a waste of time.
I don't want that to happen, Suzanne. I completely agree that at some point we've been talking about stuff now. Well, we started talking and then we had to stop that talk and move into a different talk over the course of the last year. And this hall is about execution, as you referred to a few moments ago, and action items. If we're talking about stuff and not doing stuff, then really nothing's coming out of this. So outreach is the critical component of this, is conveying information. By what mechanism, by what media, how do we do that? Thank you, John, for drawing our attention to the fact that any outbound communications should link to and refer to the website, if not beyond the website, so that we can create multiple layers, and we'll work with you on that. So, Greg, to your point, I don't want to lose focus on the fact that we're talking about goals. And I agree, Suzanne. In fact, on the agenda for our next meeting, whenever that is, I'm going to include in the pre-agenda that we're going to all come to that meeting with some ideas about methods for outreach going forward into the next 12 months or so. But I'll go to you, Suzanne, maybe to run that portion of the conversation because it's sort of your brainstorm a little bit. And I hope that's okay with you because, again, I think you have some from your experience as well, working on a nonprofit, I think you might have some really valuable feedback and contributions to make in that regard. But specifically, Greg, I don't know if you had, you brought up a goal. I don't want to get too confused with goals versus tactics. Having highlighting a particular business, I think that's a good idea. Is that a goal or is that a tactic? And you know what? I don't really even care. We don't have to be in strong business terms. If it is your goal to establish over the course of the next several months a program by which we highlight a single business for 5 or 10 minutes or so at each of our meetings, we can establish that as something to initiate unless there's opposition to do it. Are there other goals or things that we want to, action items that we want to start taking action on that are doable? That's the other thing. Some of these things, we can have big nebulous ideas, but how are we going to execute it if we don't have the money, we don't have the personnel, the resources, the time? So it has to be actionable and realistic at the same time as being, I guess, of value. So I put it out to all of you. Are there other goals that you'd like to individually or as a group for us to pursue over the course of the next several months?
Could we just put something on the Rotary Park thing next week maybe? Or, I'd be willing to, I don't know how to do it, but I'd be willing to, if someone wants to guide me to figure out how to get something up there. Could we just do something between now and our next meeting and Maybe I don't even know, I apologize for not knowing this, but are there any other results of the town survey, available yet? Have we compiled anything we're ready to share? So my thought would be, could we post something and say, Wilmington Economic Development Committee, do you know, maybe it starts off with, you have a Wilmington Economic Development Committee. In March or whenever we did it, we did a survey, and then just simply say, go to the town webpage and direct them how to get to our thing, and you can see some of the survey results. It's not necessarily that I wanted to see the survey results. My thought is that if we direct them to our website, there should be something there to see that's kind of interesting or fun. So it doesn't have to be that, but it would be nice if we direct people to the WEDC, I said that right, site, that there's something there for them to look at that would entice them.
I agree. There has to be something of value. I love the idea. So, all right, action item, Carol, we'll get a Rotary, we'll get some message on the Rotary Park sign. What's the message, and what do we want to drive attention to? I'm looking at our link now. We've got our mission statement. We've got the link to COVID-19 resources. We don't have the survey data up there. I don't know that we ever culled it down to a presentable format. We were nearing that, I think, at the time that COVID hit, and we kind of put that on the back burner. We have a guide for new businesses. So up in the top left of our economic development page, there are some resources there, but maybe it's sufficient just to say, as you said, did you know Wilmington has an economic development committee? Visit, the link on the website.
Yeah, just as simple as that. But again, on the website should be something that people go, whoa, when they click on there. The resources are great, but if there could be something else, I don't know, even if it alludes to, we'll be highlighted, because we'd have to get approval from the TV, alludes to the fact that we would be interviewing businesses. If you want to find out more about some of our local businesses, every third Tuesday at 7 p.m. or whatever.
Should go back to the creating the database and getting people's, maybe that could be the call to action that we put on the Rotary when we have the, maybe a button on the economic development site that says, sign up here for our newsletter.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So that's what we're directing people to go to the site, to click on to receive our, our ongoing business updates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we get their email addresses.
Yeah.
John, is that an easy task? A button or some thing on the main page to ask folks to sign up for notifications?
Notifications completely separate from our reverse 911.
Yeah, to sign up to sign up for a newsletter, for lack of a better word.
I mean, if that's how we want to do it, we want these newsletters to go out under Wilmington Economic Development Committee, or do you want them to go out under, like Tewksbury's doing it, under Town of Tewksbury?
Either or both.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's definitely something I could set up. How involved, I'm unsure, but I can have an answer for you tomorrow.
I mean, I don't want to make a huge project out of it, but if it's something that's relatively
no, it's something I can definitely look into and would like to look into for you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. I appreciate that.
Mike, is there an option now on the website that if someone clicked in from a business, for example, that they could easily contact someone with the town, or an email to yourself, or,
There is a link, Mike, if you remember, we set up a WEDC at wilmingtonma.gov email address on your board page. Yeah. There is a contact link for it.
And who does that go to you, Mike?
Yeah, currently it comes into my inbox. I check it once every week or so. We've gotten a couple of things, and just where do I get, and I'll respond, but it's not it's there. It hasn't gotten used.
Well, just in terms of low-hanging fruit, if someone said, okay, well, at least there's an address and someone will get back to you. So, because I'm looking at it as the first thing you want to see is who were the businesses most in need of support through either the Rotary, like who are you and what do you need? What can we do for you? That kind of thing. And I don't think we have a handle on that right now, other than maybe the gym owners.
So I'm sorry. I don't want to let this gloss away. What's the action item? So it sounds like there's a desire to have some message put on the Rotary Park sign. Is someone going to grab the ball by the horns there and take command of that effort?
I'll partner with somebody who can kind of, I'm happy to drive down town hall, talk to the Rotary, whatever, but I need a little guidance. So maybe Nancy would be a good partner since you're, that's all you're.
I would start off by starting with the database and researching that. So would like to do that first before promoting it.
Before promoting the economic development website, you mean?
Trying to gather people's email addresses.
Well, I think isn't the first goal is just to get us drive a little bit of traffic to the website, I think, isn't it? Or I don't want to confuse the issue.
Let's see. How about this? I'm sorry. I don't mean to assign tasks. Thank you, Carol. Carol, Paul, Carol. Paul's our new member on the committee. You hadn't joined us yet. So assuming that John, because of his expert technical talents, will be able to give us some type of a button or a sign up for our periodic newsletter kind of thing on the webpage. Once we are able to do that, and that is in place, then at least that's something we can start to gather. It's a two-way communication. It's not just flat information. Then perhaps Carol and Paul, you could kind of strategize what the message would be that we'd want to put on the Rotary Park sign, and we could try to drive some traffic into the website, A, to see the content that's there, but also B, to start to hopefully gather some contact information for future outbound communications. So those are the sequence of steps, I think.
So, Mr. Chair, just to point, I think it would be worthwhile, and I can talk to Beverly in the office here, who is the one that typically, depending on what's coming up, will make arrangements to have the Rotary board populated. Knows the number of characters. It's actually fairly limited, so I think you would want to have that information right out of the gate, and that'll kind of determine what you can put up there in the way of a message. So I can speak with her tomorrow and just either have her send you an email just conveying what the limitations are, or I can do it either way.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Mike, just for clarity on now, if Paul and I do go off and do this, I know there's this kind of the government guidelines, the local government guidelines on how people can communicate and so forth, that we're not kind of going off covertly and doing something, right? So is it okay for us to kind of collaborate apart from the rest of the committee on something like this, or is?
As long as 6 of it, I don't want to overstate it. And Greg and Jeff, you guys are the experts. I got a little bit of experience with this, but you can have a subcommittee engage in activities and pursue action under the direction of the rest of the organization. As long as you're not a quorum, then you're not acting outside of the scope of open meeting, I think, right? So if we, Jeff or Greg, confirm, please. If we challenge or task Paul and Carol with take on this project and execute, we empower you to do so. They can go off and do this without having to come back to us to clear all this. Is that true?
Yep, and I would just encourage them to use their town email. If Paul hasn't been set up with one yet, I'm sure John will get right on it.
How do you mean, Greg? We haven't set up town emails for all these members.
Yeah.
No, forgive me. I've forgotten that we didn't do that for each member. So.
Yeah, so neglect that. But yeah, so Carol, I hope that satisfies you. That's the you can go forward and act on our behalf. The only part where it gets confusing sometimes is if you came back to the entire committee with, hey, what do you guys think of this? And we started having a dialogue back and forth among all of us, then we'd be violating open meeting. But we're by virtue of this discussion here, we're gonna empower you guys to go off and I guess we have faith that this, you'll execute it consistent with the discussion that we had.
Okay, so I think our goal, Paul, then is to get something up before the next meeting. So within, I foresee us, since we know now we're going to be very limited on the number of characters anyway, this is something we should be able to get up pretty quickly. I think the site is clean enough to direct, people to it, you know, whether we have something exciting on it at the moment or not, doesn't really matter. I think the thing is to acclimate people in town to the fact we have a committee that has a site. And, you know, and maybe what we should do, Mike, is just run it by you, obviously, before we decide to post it on the Rotary Park sign.
I'm glad to take a look at it. I have full faith in your abilities. I don't need to proofread, but, you know, another set of eyes, I'm glad to be that. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, are you on board for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Great. We could go on and probably talk about a lot of goals. And I think we've got a couple of things to bite on. Unless someone specifically wants to have another line item of conversation here, I want to be real respectful of everyone's time. Do we want to try to execute on the few things that we talked about this evening and leave it at that for now, and we can continue to add to the pile, as it were, as we have subsequent meetings?
Yes.
7, new business, member statements and discussion agenda items. I would say this, you can either lob it at me now or lob it at me over the course of the next whatever weeks until we meet again. Agenda items. I make the agenda from my squash here, based on things that we've talked about in the past, things that come up to me. But if you have something that you would like to have as an agenda item that you think is worthwhile for us to both discuss and hopefully execute on, that is to the benefit of the business community, bring it. You know, we want to have these meetings need to be productive. So you know, don't leave it all to me. I want the agenda to be yours. I'll put it together, but you know, the content should be driven by the members of this committee. So I open it up to you now. If there's an agenda item you want me to put on for the next meeting, tell me. If you don't have anything now, I'm asking you to let me know over the course of the next few weeks.
I don't have a specific agenda item, but or a way to word it, I guess. But I guess, you know, maybe we should also continue in one data point on each agenda to talk a little bit too about drawing business to town. You know, we've talked a lot about kind of helping the existing businesses, obviously, because of what's going on. But I think, you know, at some point, hopefully, we'll be able to turn our attention back to drawing business into town. And there was some town, I shouldn't even speak because I have so little detail. I think it was Abington, Mass. There was some town that was holding a contest. I'll get more detail on it for next time. And people would pitch to the committee why they should have a little business in town. And it was kind of a storefront thing. So it's probably not something that Wilmington has that type of, again, to Jeff's point of, we don't really have like a downtown area. But anyway, they would pitch that, you know, some business they had, whether it was an art studio or whatever. And then there was some sort of Massachusetts funding to help out with that sort of a thing too. And I had cut out an article that I saw on that, and I couldn't find it before this meeting, but I'll try to locate it again. But, you know, that would kind of get us a little bit back on track, not lose sight of the fact that we still should be looking at bringing new businesses in. And I'm thinking, you know, if Amazon's in town, you know, that may entice some smaller businesses to come in to serve them pizza and donuts, because we don't have enough of those, or coffee. But something, cheeseburgers, yeah. So
no, I appreciate you bringing that up, Carol. I agree. It's exciting to think that we could be potentially navigating to a point where we can talk about what we're supposed to be talking about, which is economic development, new business, and maybe filling some of those vacant storefronts that exist that our community observe often. We see on social media. That was something we had really been doing a lot of talking about, and we kind of let it slip. Well, I shouldn't say we let it slip away, but we did turn our focus in another direction. So your suggestion is noted, and we'll allocate some time in our next session to re-engaging in that conversation, especially as these phases continue. God willing, we will find ourselves out of the phases in the relative near future and getting back to what our true mission is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say, just to build on that a little bit, that I think that a lot of people in the public expect, you know, the results of the survey too. So that's definitely something that we need to find a way to get out and get it up on the website, like you said, Mr. Chairman, before, and to get it out to the public, because people took time to fill that out. And I think we're obligated to make the results public at some, under the circumstances, I think people understand. But I mean, I think it's important to get it out there.
Thank you, Suzanne. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Valerie, you had really spearheaded a lot of the data gathering on that survey. Is that something we can chat about over the course of the next week or so, about what that data looks like today and whether or not there's some program or something we can look at to graph it? I don't want to make it too busy. A lot of words and people aren't going to look at it, but if it's easy to look at.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are easy because they're just, charts. There's others that we allowed for just entry of text, and those are going to be more difficult to condense down. I think that was one of the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's, someone who has ideas about how to consolidate those things, I think that's what we were talking about last with the survey, was how to condense those and how to take what are the takeaways from that text.
And, I think if you look back, I hate to say it, at the February or January meeting minutes, I think that was an action item for me. I'm kind of recalling that.
Yeah, we group them all together.
Like a word cloud, the common words that showed up frequently, and so come up with a graph word cloud, which I like those tools.
Right.
Yeah, let's I'll talk to you, Valerie, offline over the course of the next few days, and maybe we can get that data again and start to brainstorm on it a little bit. I don't want to tax you too much, but we can get back into revisiting what that data looks like, and Carol, perhaps we can come up with some way to publish it graphically over the course between.
Yeah, I think my assignment was to take, what sparked it was when Valerie said a lot of it was narrative, and I think the thing I was going to try to do was kind of pull from the narrative, which SurveyMonkey really can't do. It can do word clouds, but it can't really pull, like I think what we wanted to do, which was, is there a theme?
Yeah.
That people want by virtue of what they stated in a sentence form. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll just go back to it. One of the things that, again, I think is worthwhile for the next agenda, when you talk about the next agenda, is the idea of allocating first 5 minutes of the meeting to let a small business in town promote themselves. And I'm happy to work with you offline before our next meeting and take advantage of WCTV. And even if it means you and I filming a 2-minute clip where we say, hey, listen, we're the Economic Development Committee, and if you want to be highlighted at our next meeting, if we can help you and promote your business as we reopen the town and the state, feel free to reach out to the Economic Development website and get a hold of us. And you may get no responses, you may get 10. But I think it's a way that we can help a small business in town. Maybe they're hurting and we don't know who's hurting specifically, and I think we're just assuming we know, but it's worth it. And then that video can be shared around on social media and other avenues.
It'd be a good promotional way too.
Well, it would draw our attention to the website too.
Yeah.
Sure, Greg. Yeah, you're hired. I think that's a good intro too. And before we start drawing businesses in to do their intro, perhaps we do one ourselves, right? And broadcast it or play it as the first couple of minutes once we've opened up the meeting. I think we probably have the technological means of doing so. So, Greg, thank you for that suggestion, and we will definitely make it a part of the next meeting and meetings going forward. Hey, I'm sorry, John is talking to me here. He set up a newsletter option. Oh, sorry, maybe I should read this before I say it. Yes, John is the answer. Yeah, if you want to show it real quick. I'm on screen trying to look at it too. He created a link for the newsletter sign up kind of thing on the website. Here it comes.
He's good. Telling you.
What took so long, John?
I had never done it before. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right before I told you I could. So on the website, on the homepage, there is the button for reverse 911 and e-alerts. I should probably log out of my account first. So if a resident business goes to that button, they will come to the site where they can enter their email address and sign up for news from the Economic Development Committee.
Yeah.
What that allows us to do, they would hit the I'm not a robot and subscribe me. What that allows us to do is if you go to the committee page, we can start posting news and announcements and with any new information that you guys bring to the table. And that will alert those individuals who signed up by email anytime we post anything new.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
That is good.
that's pretty much how Tewksbury does it. So I think it's just the town. I mean, there must be just like a general line that I think the town's been sending it around.
Yep.
Yep.
That's good. Excellent.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can also put that on the economic development page? Another, maybe a bigger button or something else on our page?
I should be able to do that, yes.
That would be ideal. That was what my vision was, or my head was, Nancy. So yeah, John.
Because I think that's a great link, but it looks like, oh, this is for 911 or.
It does. I agree with that.
It's not intuitive that I would go there to get this kind of
So
content.
it's on that page. We can come up with language for the sign and other places that's consistent that says, it really just drives it to the page and then you can click on the link. Mail and so forth.
Jeff, when is the next tax bill going out?
October 1st is when the bills will be prior to October 1st. People will get them October 1st.
Oh, that's the thing with the town topics. Okay, got it. Yep.
Okay, and continue. If other things come up in your mind over the course of the next few weeks that you'd like on the agenda, let me know. Anybody else? Anything?
Just Jeff, will Bev get Paul and I that Rotary Park, when we can post and how many characters we can post?
Yes.
Will she go through Mike?
Well, we can do either one. I initially was just going to have her email the information to Mike, but does that work, Mike, or how do you want to handle that?
No problem. We'll keep it simple. Yeah, she can send it to me rather than have to go through and figure out which person to send it to.
Yep.
I can be the hub of the wheel.
Yeah, I just didn't want to lose that. Okay.
Yeah, no. As soon as I get it, Carol, I'll send it to you and Paul. Within moments.
So we'll provide information about. I don't know, for example, what is scheduled to be to appear there over the next couple of weeks. If there's anything at all, clearly, if there's not, we'll let you know, and then you can. We'll identify the windows of opportunity, so to speak.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you. Public comments, John. I presume there's no one waiting to jump in here.
We do not have any callers on the line.
Very well.
If we want to at least wait a couple minutes, and maybe you can continue to another topic while we're waiting, and I'll let you know if anyone joins.
Thank you. Do so. While we're waiting to see if someone wants to jump in and ask any questions, why don't we look at calendars to schedule the next meeting? Today is the 14th of July. I know it's vacation season and all, but we would be looking at, I don't know, 11th or 18th or something like that of August. So we want to first find out what's available from a Zoom perspective. I presume for the time being, Jeff, that we're still Zooming.
Yes, I don't anticipate that's going to change at least through August.
So I don't know who holds the keys to what's available for Zoom meetings. I know, Valerie, you and Jeff are often with other committees after hours. So we certainly, as Valerie, as a member of this committee, we want to have you here. Jeff, always love to have you, but if you have another committee to go to, we understand.
Mike, just say, Mike, looks clear. Looks like Board of Health on the 18th. Other than that, it's clear on those 2 dates.
11 or 18. So now it becomes a question of what works for you folks. I'm thinking 18.
Either's good with me.
18th is fine for me.
18.
Yeah, I don't see a problem. You're saying the 18th, correct?
18, yeah. 8/18, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock. Suzanne?
I'm only hesitant because I'm trying to find out when the Olin, I don't know, Jeff, do you remember? Doesn't that sound like one of the Olin dates?
So Olin is 8/25. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
the
the informal
25th.
meeting, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm good for either the 11th or the 18th.
Anyone have a problem with 8/18? Very good. 8/18, 6 o'clock will be our next meeting. John, we can communicate tomorrow, but if you want to set up a Zoom meeting for that, I can send it off to the team.
Will do.
Did anybody jump in with public comments while we were deciding on that?
We have no callers, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to call that then. And unless there's anything else specifically someone would like to bring up now, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
One question, did you
Yes.
want to give me a date change on something?
Oh, I will send you, you know what? It's
Okay,
not even necessary, Carol. There was an edit to the Word document that was the date for our previous meeting. I already made the change, so I'll send the change.
Good. So I don't even need it. Beautiful.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
good. But thank you for taking those notes, by the way.
Liz,
and
that's a
Lil,
big job.
thank you, Lil, for taking notes this evening. I'm sure we'll
problem.
just see your comments on those. So I'm sorry. A motion to adjourn is made by
Correct.
Greg. I accept that. Who seconds it?
I second that.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor? I'm a yes. Paul?
Aye.
Aye.
Valerie?
Yes.
Lil?
Aye.
Nancy?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Carol, I already heard yours. I think
Yep.
Greg, you have a motion, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you.
to those listening. Thank you, Jeff, for being here tonight.
Take care.
too.